Hey guys, this is my top 10 favorite films of 2024. These are films that debuted in cinemas in 2024 or they debuted at festivals around the world in 2024. So you won't see films like Red Rooms or Sing Sing in my list because I saw those films in 2023. So I'm just sticking with the films in 2024 just to not make things complicated. So a couple of these films may not be released until 2025, but for me, I always just try to stick to films that debut in their specific year. So this is my top 10 favorite films of 2024. Okay, before I get into my top 10, I'm just going to go through some honorable mentions. These are films that didn't make my top 10, but I definitely recommend checking them out. They're very, very good films. So some films in my honorable mentions are The Apprentice, I'm Still Here, Honora, Wicked, Eden, The Count of Monte Cristo, Emilia Perez, Look Back, Conclave, Superman, The Christopher Reeve Story, Night Beach, The End, Black Dog, Civil War, The Truth vs. Alex Jones, Dune Part 2, Storms Carry Maja, In the Summers, The Greatest Night in Pop, Exhibiting Forgiveness, Frida, Didi, Power, The Incredible Life of Aibeling, The Battle for Laikipia, Agent of Happiness, and In the Land of Brothers. My number 10 film of 2024 is Challengers, directed by Luca Guadagnino. I'm not really a big fan of Luca, but this film I really, really loved. It has three fantastic performances from Zendaya, Mike Faist, and Josh O'Connor. They really bounce off each other very well. It's a very sexy, involved film. It's a kind of a threesome, three-way relationship. They all interacted with each other as the film goes on, and the dynamic between the three people are very interesting and very sexy and very charismatic. And I love how the tennis scenes are very realistic. It doesn't really skimp on those details as well. So even if you're a big fan of tennis, you won't cringe at the film. It really goes into the details of what an athlete, what it takes to be an athlete, and the relationships with other people. So I really, really liked Challengers. It was very interesting, very sexy. It had a beautiful music score, a beautiful cinematography, and fantastic performances. So if you haven't checked out Challengers already, even if you're not a big fan of sports films, I definitely recommend checking out Challengers. My number 9 film of 2024 is Portrait of a Certain Orient, directed by Marcelo Gomez. This film debuted at the 2024 Rotterdam Film Festival earlier in the year. And this film is such a beautiful film. When you first watch the film, it has striking, beautiful black and white cinematography. It's one of the best looking films of the year. And it's about, it's set in Lebanon about in the late 1940s after World War II, with his young brother and sister. They're in Lebanon, and the country is falling apart, so they want to leave Lebanon, and they get on this boat that is going towards Brazil because they want to start a new life. So they get on this boat that is going towards Brazil, and once they're on this boat, the sister she meets this man on the boat, and they form a romantic relationship. But the brother is very protective of his sister, and the film is about their relationship. And once we get to Brazil, the film just goes along the river in Brazil. It's so beautiful, and then because the first half an hour of the film is about them in Lebanon getting onto the boat, and then once we get to Brazil, the middle half an hour of the film is about them going along this boat in Brazil. It's beautiful, and then the final half an hour of the film is them in Brazil, and then and the sister wants to get married to this stranger, and the brother's not happy about it, and it's very heartbreaking and very interesting. I love all the characters in this film, and the film is just so beautiful. So if you get a chance, I definitely recommend checking out A Portrait of a Certain Orient. My number 8 film of 2024 is Sujo, directed by Astrid Rondero and Fernanda Velades. Sujo debuted at the 2024 Sundance Film Festival and was one of my favorite films on the festival, probably number 2, number 3, which is giving a spoiler for my later films in my list. This film is about set in Mexico, about a young boy. His father is killed. His father is part of the Mexican cartel. He's a drug dealer, and his father is killed, and his son is left to live for himself. He goes to live with his auntie, I think. It's been a while since I've seen the film, but because his father was he made a lot of enemies. He has to kind of live in hiding throughout the film, and there's quite a lot of tension in the film. And we see him grow up to be like a young teenager. We see him grow up to be like a young man. He's trying to make a name for himself, trying to distance himself from his father, but he can't really escape his father's past. So it's a very heartbreaking, very engrossing story about this boy in Mexico. So I definitely recommend checking out Sujo. My number 7 film of 2024 is Inside Out 2, directed by Kelsey Mann. Okay, everybody knows this film. I think this was the number 1 film of 2024 at the box office and the most successful animated film of all time. So everybody knows this film. But for me, I liked the original Inside Out. I did like that film, but for me, Inside Out 2 takes the themes of the original Inside Out and just advances and explores them in such interesting ways. I think it's much better than the original film. I really think if you've ever seen those documentaries by Michael Apted, like 7 Up, 14 Up, 21 Up, 28 Up, I really think this film kind of reminded me of those films where we visit the teenager Riley as she grows up. In the original film, she's just a young girl, but in this film, she's a teenager, and she's having to deal with teenage girl things and her body and how her body reacts, and then we see all these different characters in this film, all the emotions, dealing with all of these teenage girls' problems in her life. It might seem trivial to us, but in her, it's kind of a big deal. So I really think this film, Inside Out 2, did a fantastic job of exploring what it's like to be a teenage girl. And I'm really interested to see. I assume that there will be an Inside Out 3 because of how successful this film was. So I really hope they keep exploring. I wouldn't mind seeing an Inside Out 3 or 4 or 5 if they capture. So maybe the next film will be Riley when she's in her 20s, dating seriously, and maybe Inside Out 4 will be when she's in her late 20s, early 30s, when she becomes a mother and gets married, and we see all the emotions that happens with her. So I'm really excited to see what this franchise does in the future. So if you haven't seen Inside Out 2 already, I highly recommend checking out Inside Out 2, even if you're not a big fan of animated films. My number 6 film of 2024 is Bob Trevino Likes It, directed by Tracy Lehman. This film debuted at the 2024 South by Southwest Festival, and I assume it will get a release sometime in 2025. I highly recommend checking out this film. This film has probably the most human characters I've seen in any film in this year. They're really relatable. Played by Barbie Farina and John Leguizamo. Barbie plays a young woman, maybe in her early 20s. She likes to please everybody. She always likes to smile and have a positive attitude, even though deep down she's not very happy. In her romantic relationship, she's always put down upon. She's always maybe the second option to her male counterparts, to her male partners. So she always gets dumped, and she just gets like trampled on by everybody in her life. She has this very strange relationship with her father. Her father is probably the worst father in the world. He's not going to win any Father of the Year awards, played by a French steward. He really treats his daughter like shit. He just uses her for money or for anytime he wants something, he just uses his daughter. He's really the worst father in the world. So, and one day, like the John Leguizamo plays this workaholic. He doesn't he lives with his wife. He doesn't have any kids. He's always working, and suddenly one day, on Facebook, he gets because Barbie is she's trying to find her father. He's gone missing, and her father has the same name as John Leguizamo's character. So she goes to look for him on Facebook, and then suddenly John Leguizamo gets a like by this random stranger, and then suddenly they start messaging each other on Facebook, and eventually they meet in real life, and they have a really nice, warm relationship. It doesn't get romantic or sexual at all. It's just a nice kind of like father daughter relationship. It's a very very nice relationship, and it builds as the film goes on, and they really bounce off each other very well. So I really highly recommend checking out Bob Trevino Likes It when it comes out sometime in 2025. It's such a human, relatable film, and has such beautiful characters and beautiful performances. So I recommend checking out Bob Trevino Likes It. My number 5 film of 2024 is Black Box Diaries, directed by Shiori Ito. This documentary debuted at the 2024 Sundance Film Festival, and it's about a young female journalist in Japan. One night, she's by one of her work colleagues. She's drugged, and she's taken to a hotel, and she's raped. And then after this, she tries to report it to the police and to her bosses, but nobody believes her. There's no evidence, and she's hit by a lot of barricades in Japanese society. And the director of this film, Shiro Ito, she's actually the journalist in the film, and we follow her throughout the film as she's trying to get justice for being raped, and the film is very very compelling. It's a very interesting perspective on Japanese society. Both men and women, she's trying to fight back against her every step of the way, and it's heartbreaking. It's inspiring. It's very compelling and engrossing. So it's a very I definitely recommend checking out Black Box Diaries. My number 4 film of 2024 is Handling the Undead, directed by Thea Hisvendor. This is a kind of like a zombie film from Norway. It's a very slow burn film. It's a very character driven slow burn film. It kind of reminds me of the vampire film Let the Right One In from Sweden. It's very similar to that. It's very slow burn. It's very heartbreaking. It focuses on these characters. They've just lost somebody, and then suddenly one day the person that they lost comes back to life as to them it doesn't look like a zombie. It looks like the same person, but they're a little bit slower. They can't talk. They look a bit strange. But as the film goes on, they slowly turn into a zombie, and they act in strange ways. And the film, these people who have lost their loved ones, they know something's wrong, but they really really want to get back their loved ones. They're happy that their loved ones have come back, but they know something's wrong. They know they have to kind of choose between dealing with the current situation or kind of like pushing back against their loved one. It's very heartbreaking, very very engrossing. And the film is set during summer, so it's very very hot, and that adds a kind of layer to the film. So this film is not going to be for everybody. It's quite slow, and for me, I think I'm probably one of the only people who really love this film. So, but if you really really latch onto this film's wire, then I think you're going to love this film. So I recommend checking out Handling the Undead. My number 3 film of 2024 is All We Imagine as Light, directed by Payal Kapadia. and this is her second feature after another documentary that debuted at the Cannes Film Festival. This film also debuted at the 2024 Cannes Film Festival in competition, and this film is set in Mumbai. It really captures the feel of the city. You get camera shots of random camera shots of street kids and animals and people just getting the train and going to work and eating food, and you really get a unique perspective of life in Mumbai. And it's about these three women who work for the same company in Mumbai, and you really get a feel of what it's like to be a woman in India, and they really bounce off each other very well. They try to help each other as the film goes on, and they all have different kind of relationships. One of the women, she has a husband she's never really met, and he's working in Europe, and they kind of just correspond by letters, and they don't really see each other very well. And there's another younger woman who has a secret relationship with a younger man, but maybe her parents don't approve of this relationship, so she has to keep it secret. And there's another woman, she is living by herself in her apartment, and she wants stuff fixed in her apartment, but the men in her life really push it back against her, and she has a lot of trouble. So this film is beautiful, and in the final 20 minutes of the film, all of their relationships come together in a beautiful way, and it's really heartbreaking and really left a lasting impact on me. So I definitely recommend checking out All We Imagine as Light. My number two film of 2024 is Memoir of a Snail, directed by Adam Elliott. If you had told me at the start of the film that two of my favorite films of 2024 would be animated films, I would not believe you, because I'm not a huge fan of animated films. For me, they don't really have enough narrative heft to really affect me on an emotional level. But for me, both Inside Out 2 and Memoir of a Snail were definitely two of the most memorable films of 2024, either both real life and animated. Memoir of a Snail, it just grabs you from the go. It has such a sympathetic lead performer. It kind of, the narrative structure of the film kind of reminded me of like Forrest Gump, where we introduced to a character, she's telling her life story, and suddenly we're back in present time, and then where the film kind of tells you what happens after this, after we're introduced to her when she's telling her life story. It's heartbreaking. It's funny. The animation is amazing. Like, there's so much going on in the film. Like, I think you have to see this film like three or four times just to get everything that's happening, because you're so focused on the characters and the story that you don't really see what's happening in the frames of the animation. It's so beautifully done, and all of the voice characters, they're done so well, like Sarah Snook and Cody Smith McPhee and Jackie Weaver and Magna Subansky. They all do fantastic jobs in the voice characters. I definitely recommend checking out Memoir of a Snail. It's such a beautiful, affecting, heartbreaking, funny animated film. And my number one film of 2024 is The Brutalist, directed by Brady Corbet. This film is so epic. I think definitely of the films of 2024, I think 2024 was not a fantastic year for films. But I think in 10 to 20 years or 30 years times, when we look back at this year, I think The Brutalist will definitely be the standout film of the year. This is the film that people will be just dissecting and discussing for many years. It's so epic. The performances in the film from Adrian Brody and Felicity Jones and Guy Pearce, they give the best performance that they've ever done. And the character that I think the character played by Adrian Brody, Laszlo Toth, he's the most layered and human and real character I've seen in many years. And Adrian Brody brings him to life. We see him change as the film goes on. We see him sometimes like subdued and sometimes powering, and the first half of the film is structured so differently to the second half of the film. But for me, both parts of the film work so well together, and the film is very, very long. It's about 3.5 hours long. There's an intermission for about 50 minutes halfway through the film, and it works. It doesn't feel long. I recommend checking out this at the cinema if you can. The first part of the film is about 2 hours, and it feels like a 2 hour film, and then you go outside and have a rest for 15 minutes, and then come back to kind of watching a very different film to the first half of the film. You kind of see what happens to Lazio Toth in the second half of the film. So it's such an epic, beautiful. You don't really agree with what he does throughout the film, but you're so magnetized by what he does. Yeah, the Brutalist. I saw it like 3 months ago, and I still can't shake off how I feel about the film. So I definitely recommend checking out the Brutalist. Don't be intimidated by the length. Don't be intimidated by the themes and the subjects that it explores. It's such an accessible film. It's funny. It's very compelling. So I definitely recommend checking out the Brutalist. It's my number one film of 2024. So that's my top 10 of 2024. What were your favorite films of 2024? Please comment below what your top 10 films of 2024 were. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.